Hi, Charles. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for joining the show today. Can you give the audience a quick background on your history in UX?
great, sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Alex.
Of course.
So I think probably the best way to think about me is that I self-identify as a hardcore designer. I've led very large organizations. I've been a VP of design for a long time, but I'm a designer. I do design, I work on design, I care about the work, and I care about the profession more than anything else. And over the years, I've worked with a lot of different clients from different industries, but the work has always had this deep understanding of humans and human needs and motivations.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, I started doing this work before there was really a formal discipline of interactive design. So the work that I've tended to do has been foundational and formational, really very much about innovation and transformation, stuff that you guys are working on. And that's always been a central part of my work. The earliest interactive work that I did was UX for 3D modeling systems, CAD/CAM systems. So
Mhm.
actually designing and building the tools that other architects, designers, and engineers would use to do design.
Yeah.
Folks like the Jet Propulsion Labs in Pasadena would use these things to create spacecrafts and space probes. And from there, I went into the agency world with that background when design agencies were really like startups. They were the places that were figuring out how to make great interactive design work in a commercial context. So Razorfish, I was a founder at Digitas. And I had a great mentor, a creative director from Ogilvy, and she gave me this amazing piece of advice, which was every year, 5 great new pieces in your portfolio. Commit to that. That's how you build your career. And it might sound simple, which is really the essence of really great design. It's like,
Yeah.
but until you try to do that, you don't know how hard it is. It's like it makes you fight for every detail and every project. And for me, it resulted in great work for my portfolio, but it also created great results for my clients. I wanted to be able to document how human-centered design did better business. And I've had the privilege of doing a lot of genuinely new work. So, creating new navigational and interaction paradigms, doing foundational work in banking and financial services, and then fintech, figuring out how to make e-commerce work, online television with founding at Hulu, game design with Call of Duty, and then mobile and enterprise. One of the things that I loved about my agency days was that no matter how high your title, you did the work, you were in the work. And that isn't really how things get done today. But it's an ethic that I've always carried with me ever since. And it's really, from my perspective, it's the best way to do great work and to build world-class teams. Because if you can't do the work, you don't get the respect.
Yep.
It's like great designers I want to work with other great designers,
Yeah.
It's like, it's how you, it's like the best part of this job. So these days, I really kind of reconnected with my roots. So I'm working with very early stage startups, doing strategy, innovation, design, making ideas real and testable, designing products, brands, and propositions. And that's kind of like where I'm at right there.
So, Charles, I'm sure you have good advice for new designers and in the field. What advice would that be?
Oh, wow. Well, I would give them the same piece of advice that that my mentor gave me. So it's like you want to have a great career, commit to making 5 great pieces of design that that you put in your portfolio every year minimum. I also think that if you're at that early stage in your career and you're not sure what you want to be doing, if you're sort of like you're deciding, it's like, yeah, maybe I want to be a dentist, maybe I want to be an accountant, maybe I want to be a designer. It's like designer's kind of cool. It's like if you're at that point of uncertainty, don't do design. Go become an accountant.
Yeah.
But because you will be happier and probably get paid better. But if you have a desire to really make a difference in the world, design is all about changing the world in a better way. It's like nobody does design to make things worse. Everybody does it to make it better. And for me, going to architecture school, it was probably one of the hardest things that I'd ever done. I was working like 16, 18-hour days, 5 days a week. On the weekends, my break was that I got to work 10-hour days. And it was painful. But the thing is that, suffering through that and coming out the other side was kind of my commitment to a passion that I have, a passion to do the best work. And I think that's what it is. Like, if you're going to go into design, go in all the way.
Yeah.
Like, with every intention of just sort of like every day being better. Like, I still try to improve my chops. I'm always looking at my work and saying, what can I make better? How can I do a better job, not just of doing my design, understanding what drives it, and then communicating that so that I effectively persuade my clients and partners that this is the right drink. And how do I listen to them to get the feedback to make it better?
How was it working on Call of Duty? I was never a big video gamer, and then the pandemic hit, and obviously I don't know if Warzone was a thing when you were working there, but tell us about that experience. Obviously, it's like one of the most influential games of today.
Working in game design was something that I had wanted to do for a long time, because it is a closed world. It's very, very hard to get into it. And it has its own unique codes and ways of working. It's probably the second hardest job I ever had, next to architecture school, because like when you're in what happens is, like, AAA games have like a 3 or 4 year development cycle, and the first couple of years the designers and developers are just kind of messing around. And then in the last like 6 or 9 months, it's basically hardcore hours. People are doing 12-hour days minimum, just round the clock. So that was really hard. A lot of stuff related to to UX gets left towards the end, so there's a big crunch. I think the thing that I loved about doing game design and working with mobile and game design was that it really changed my perspective on things, because game design is very much about behavioral economics. So it's basically, how do you get people into engagement loops? How do you not just create something that's delightful, but something that basically gets people to to interact in ways that are kind of unexpected? There's a game out there, it's called Papers, Please, which is essentially you play a border guard who reviews people's papers. And it is a hugely successful game, or was a few years ago, kind of an underground game. But basically what this job does is it gets you to be a bureaucrat and to play the character of being a bureaucrat obsessively.
Wow.
And that's a really interesting power. It's like games have an ability to educate people, whether in kind of subtle and unexpected ways. They influence them in certain ways. And I try to use it in ways that are good. But basically, Call of Duty is and actually I'm glad you brought this up, because I would actually say that along with studios and startups, game design is one of those areas that has a very, very, very strong core, of connection with uncertainty, probably even more so than a lot of other types of design, because making a game is a really iterative, artful process. They care so much about every part of the magic of the experience.
Exactly.
And so, having been involved in that process was something that was really, really great. I mean, it gives you insights into human mind. Testing and iteration are an incredibly important part of the work. Honestly, I ended up taking the work of game design that I've been doing in game design and mobile, and bringing that into financial services, and using that in London to create entirely new ways of doing what had been traditional things like retirement calculators. So, things that were very non-engaging,
Yeah.
things that didn't resonate with humans, that were very industry oriented. And we took those and we reframed them into these game-like experiences that were optimistic, accessible, that delighted people. And we tested them against traditional models and traditional mindsets about how you go about doing financial services with consumers. And it was like right out of the gate, you could see a vast difference. Like, people were depressed and unhappy with the outcomes, and just sometimes confused by the stuff that they were getting from traditional experiences. And when they encountered these new game-like experiences, they felt empowered, they felt delighted. And I looked at that and said, that's an area where we're making a real difference in human life. And these products that we created a few years ago have now become core features of Aviva's strategy going forward. They're like featured in the navigation. They get people right into it. I know that there are plans for kind of expanding them. So game design can influence a lot of other industries in unexpected and positive ways.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Charles, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Alex. It was a lot of fun.